Hi, welcome to AM Prime here on the Content Capital WESN. I'm Leah Ann Jones. It's Ash Wednesday. The Carnival 2023 season has come to an end. So sad. It's been a whirlwind of a season for sure, with lots of great moments, lots of emotional moments throughout. I know for one I've seen legit tears on the stage and on the road. Those who would have participated would have seen some people go through a range of emotions, including being brought to tears by the sheer joy of being able to be back on the road this year for Carnival 2023. It was definitely a great season. Thanks to everybody who made it possible. We want to say congratulations to all competition winners, including the Road March 2023 winners, which has yet to be called. Can't say it just yet, we don't know for sure. But I wasn't on the road Monday and Tuesday. From what I saw, however, I feel as if Nyla and Skinny Fabulous may come out on top. We have to wait. We have to wait to see what happens. But if they are crowned the Road March 2023 winners, this would be Nyla Blackman's first Road March title and the second Road March title for St. Vincent-born Skinny Fabulous. So all in all, it has been an amazing carnival season. Congratulations to all the winners once again. Panorama Band of the Year is going to be called as well later on. Today we're going to wait to hear more on those results as the day progresses today. Let's take a look at some of the news that took place over the last few days. Regionally, students protest at Mona campus. Students at the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies staged a protest last Sunday night, inciting the removal of a faculty member after alleged comments made following an incident that happened on the campus. It is alleged that this entire situation stemmed from a dispute over discrepancies with a race at a recent sporting event, which allegedly led to a student being assaulted by a licensed firearm holder. A meeting among the school's administration is on way to discuss the protest. Video courtesy Loop News Jamaica. That was the situation at Mona campus on Sunday night, where some students were protesting a dispute over a race at a recent sporting event where a student was allegedly assaulted by a firearm holder. More news coming up on that later on today. And internationally, a second earthquake rocks Turkey. In Turkey, a 6.4 magnitude earthquake last Monday has sparked fresh panic after a February 6th tremor that left almost 45,000 dead in both Turkey and Syria. France 24 has more on this.
This building had survived the initial earthquake which hit on February the 6th. 2 weeks later, it has crumbled after the double quake which struck Hatay province. The first tremor, which had a magnitude of 6.4, was initially felt by residents. The next hit 3 minutes later, spreading fear across southern Turkey and northern Syria.
I was in front of the building. The road moved like waves. The building was moving, going back and forth. The cars were going from left to right. It knocked us off our feet.
After a series of earthquakes in recent weeks, locals know it's better to flee their homes and seek safety outdoors, rather than remain in buildings which no longer seem safe. It's the same for those in northern Syria. Here in Azaz, several families have taken shelter in their vehicles or in open spaces.
We were in peace at home. I was getting ready to pray when I felt the floor trembling. We came out running. We only took a rug and blankets to keep the children warm.
Turkey's Interior Minister has already confirmed several deaths, and hundreds of people have been injured in both Turkey and Syria. Meanwhile, the death toll from the initial earthquake on February the 6th is still rising.
Such terrible news coming out of Turkey and Syria on Monday. Another 6.4 magnitude earthquake has hit both Turkey and Syria, more deaths amounting. We have more developments coming out of the situation later on today, but we keep everyone in Turkey and Syria in our prayers. And moving locally, Big Mike marks end of mass in Port of Spain for mass band Legacy. On Carnival Tuesday, Legacy band leader Big Mike took to the mic to share his thoughts on an incident that caused his band to delay their crossing of the stage at festivities in the city of Port of Spain. ICNTT has more on this.
I am just a band leader, a poor, humble band leader for the last 40 years. And I want to say today, this will be my last. I have done enough. For a band to come through the wrong way, bust the line, come in front and block everybody, and then let them go. When I had meeting with Mr. Nestor Nantu, and he said, Mike, I'm going to pull them aside, and I'm going to let you go. And that did not happen. I was behind Lost Stride. Behind Lost Stride. Lost Stride got a long time, and I now reached the stage. So I want to say, you all wouldn't miss me. I don't want all you to miss me, but I want to tell you all, I have done enough for Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago. Over 40 years. And enough is enough. You're not going to see me on this stage again. This will be my last. My last, because the NCC, the authorities, and Mr. Nestor Nantu, who promised to bring me and pull certain prestige band aside because they come to the wrong way, bust the line, and they allow them to go across stage. So this is my last. I finish with Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago. I may travel or I might go in the countryside, and I will not be in Port of Spain. Enough is enough. For the last 20, 40 years, I've had enough. And I cannot deal with dishonesty, and I can't deal with people that want to favor the prestige band. Thank you very much. That's it for me.
Legendary mass man Big Mike Antoine making his statement that mass band Legacy will no longer take to Port of Spain, to the stage at Port of Spain to celebrate Carnival going forward. Now, interestingly, the NCC officials would have explained that the band that did in fact cut off Legacy had 14 music trucks and was so large that logistically it would have been a nightmare. It would have been very difficult to get them out of the way in order for Legacy to proceed to cross the stage. They, however, did indicate that the band would be penalized for cutting in front of the Legacy mass band. However, Big Mike Antoine has said that it's no concern to him about the penalization. He is more concerned about the disrespect. That was Big Mike Antoine of the mass band Legacy. And now for a bit of local entertainment news. International stars on the road for Carnival 2023. TNT's 2023 Carnival celebrations is known to bring people from all over the world to our shores. This year is no different, and we had a few international stars out and about enjoying our celebrations, including actor Damon Idris, comedian Lily, and of course, Nicki Minaj.
Wait, you ready? No. You ready? You ready? Ready for the road?
Ready for the road.
Ready for the road.
Oh, wait, what did I learn? Wait.
What did you learn?
We gonna ride down to it, lie down. No.
The space.
Mental day.
Talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. Answers. Talk about it. She's not just a queen of rap. She's a queen. Period. Period. Queen thing. King thing. Queen. That's all that comes out of Trinidad.
Now, if you've been following Damson Idris's social media stories, you would have seen that he's been having quite a time here in Trinidad and Tobago with lots of speculation if he's returning home single. The Snowfall actor has indeed had quite an experience here in Trinidad 2023 Carnival. And Lily, social media comedian Lily, out of Canada, also shared on her social media that she just couldn't keep up. She was not able, after some fets this weekend, trying to head on the road on Monday. She just couldn't keep up. And of course, Nicki Minaj was here to perform alongside Marshall Montano with the remix of his 2023 hit, Shake the Place. Let's take a look at what's coming up on the show today. Playwright and director Alan Charles will be joining us to discuss his upcoming play, Midlife Crisis. And after the news, we're going to hear from Panorama 2023 winners, BP Renegades. All this and more coming up in the show later on today. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss the landscape of the economy here in Trinidad and Tobago. More on this coming up.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WASN,
the content capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, about 2 weeks ago, the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago issued its economic bulletin for January 2023. A report in the Newsday newspaper stated that the central bank suggests that Trinidad and Tobago's economy has outshone most of the world's economies last year with a healthy non-energy sector, and it now seems poised to have a great year ahead based on an ongoing surge in natural gas production. Some of us, however, who have been going to the groceries monthly for the past year, who have been struggling to put gas in our cars, and who have been overall feeling the pinch of a seemingly shrinking economy, we may be a bit confused reading this report because the statistics certainly don't translate to our pockets. So to help us this morning understand a little better what the central bank report is telling us, joining us via Zoom is economist Dr. Valmiki Arjun. Good morning, Dr. Arjun. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning to you and good morning to all your viewers.
Now, the report states that based on data from the Central Statistical Office, our economy grew by 6.6% in the 2022 fiscal year. Can you confirm the accuracy of this?
Yes, so when I refer to the data provided by the CSO, the economy in fact did grow by 6.6% in the second quarter of last year. Now, we have to really put this into context in that what does it really mean? So what they would have done is taken our actual real GDP, that is GDP when you take away that inflationary effect, the price effect. So they took the real GDP of the second quarter of 2022 and compared it to the real GDP in the second quarter of 2021. Real GDP meaning the total amount of goods and services that we would have produced at that point in time. Now, when you compared both periods, we found that in the second quarter of last year, the economy did in fact grow. The GDP values did in fact increase by 6.6%. So on that note, this is in fact very good news. However, remember that our economic activities were substantially low, very, very low in that particular period in 2021, the second quarter of 2021. Remember, we were at the height of the pandemic at that point in time. So to say that our economy rebounded, yes, it is of course good news that we grew, but to say that it's rebounded is not necessarily that intuitive. And the reason being is that we are comparing ourselves, or we are comparing our performance to a period when we actually hit rock bottom at a very low point in time in our economic performance. So, of course, when you reach the bottom of the barrel, there's only one place to go, and that's up. So it would actually be better to compare ourselves to the pre-pandemic period, to the second quarter of 2019, before that immediate period before COVID started. And when we look at the data, we would actually see that our GDP performance in the second quarter of 2022, the economy, in fact, did actually decline by about 6.55%. So I think it's more intuitive to do it that way, not to compare ourselves to when we were at the lowest point, because those were extraordinary circumstances. Remember, when you get to the lowest point, there's only one place you can go, and that's up. So naturally, we would have seen some growth when we compare ourselves to the second quarter of 2021. So I think it's better from a more pragmatic standpoint to look at, especially if we are serious about getting our growth trajectory, in a significant manner, getting it back on a significant plane, we need to compare ourselves to where we were in the pre-pandemic period. Now, I've got some data from the CSO. When we look at our performance relative to that 2019 period I'm referring to, we would have seen that our manufacturing sector, now this is manufacturing that is inclusive of the petrochemical industry, actually dropped by about 7.2%. But when we take away that element of the petrochemical industry, we would see that manufacturing actually grew between 2019 till the second quarter of 2022 by a whopping 20%. Now, this is extraordinary performance. In fact, to account for this more would have been the food and beverage sector, the food processing sector, which grew by about 35%. And this is excellent performance, and I think part of it is to do with the facilities that are provided by the Exim Bank, the foreign exchange facilities. Remember that over this period, the cost of raw materials, the cost of actually importing these essential items to facilitate the manufacturing process, it would have surged. So they would have needed more foreign exchange after all. The Exim Bank, their allocation of about 100 million US provided by the state for a couple of fiscal years well now, it would have certainly helped them to take advantage of the increase in international spending, more so happening since last year, within the last 16 to 18 months. The manufacturing sector took advantage of that increase in global spending and ramped up their production levels. So therefore, a lot of our positive economic performance coming out of last year especially was more so in fact to do with the manufacturing sector, particularly food and beverage. When you look at the petrochemical industry, petrochemical products, it actually, when you compare it to 2021's performance, it declined by almost 6%, and when you compare it to 2019's performance, it declined by about 20%. Construction did well. When you compare it to 2021, it grew by 10%. But again, when you compare it to the pre-pandemic period, which is what we really ought to be concerned with, it declined by 4%. So that's just to give you a bit of flavor as to the numbers, as to where our economy is actually at this point in time, more so when you compare it to the pre-pandemic era.
Thank you for laying that out for us a little more clearly, Dr. Arjun. Now, you mentioned that getting the trajectory of the economy's growth back on track. The CBTT, the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, has stated that we are set to have a better year this 2023. What are your thoughts on this?
So much of it has to do with the factor with where our revenue streams are at and where they've been in the first quarter of this fiscal year. You recall from the report that it indicated we would have earned a fiscal surplus, and I think that's of course that's excellent news for any country. As a matter of fact, we earned a fiscal surplus in the first quarter of this year, from October to December, of about $2 billion, and of course that is largely to do with the fact that our revenues, our energy revenues have seen a bumper performance. Now, when one were to look at the data, in that particular period, we earned $4.4 billion more in energy revenues relative to what we would have earned in that same period in 2021. And our total revenues as a whole would have been about $3.7 billion higher than what the total revenues would have been in the corresponding period in 2021. It's always good to get the actual figures, the actual data, so we know that exactly where we stand. Now, however, we have to stick a pin in there just for now, given that when we look at what the prices are, just before we started speaking, I took a look at where the energy prices were, where they've been lately. The most updated energy prices for oil is about $82.05. Gas, it's about $1.99. So just in the vicinity of about $2 per MMBTU. Now, when you compare that to when you compare those figures to where we were in June, for example, last year, oil prices were well above $120. Last year, August, gas prices were well above $9. $9 was about, it peaked at about $9.70. So prices at this point in time are not as good as we would have hoped. Remember, our national budget is pegged. Our revenues are already pegged on an oil price of about $92.50 and a gas price of about $6 per MMBTU. Now, we have to consider why this has happened. Why have oil and gas prices started to fall once more? Remember, prices are very volatile, so even though they may be lower now, they could very well increase in the future. But there has been a slowdown or bottoming out of economic activity, especially in the latter part of last year and in the earlier part of this year, because over 53 countries globally since last year would have increased their interest rates. I mean, you would have heard of the United States, the Federal Reserve. They bumped up their interest rates about 6 times since 2022. So the US interest rates alone increased by about 2.5%. And emerging economies, they would have bumped up interest rates by about 93 times. The reason being is that they're trying to tame very high global inflation, and it sort of helped. But what it did is slow down economic activities globally. We would have seen that there was a slowdown, a deceleration then in the growth of international trade all over the world, and that would have also partially accounted for why shipping rates would have gone back to the pre-pandemic era rates. So with these hikes in the interest rates, especially coming out of the United States, there would have been a reduction or a slowdown then in the growth of economic activity. The US dollar would have strengthened as well, because when interest rates go up in the United States, what tends to happen is that there's an influx of investments into US financial securities, more so their bonds. And that would have caused the US dollar to appreciate, to strengthen relative to other foreign currencies. Now remember, when you trade oil and gas on the international market, it's done so using the US dollar. So when the US dollar appreciates because of their interest rate hike, that would have made the US dollar much more expensive relative to other currencies. So other countries, because they found it more expensive to purchase this oil and gas, they started to reduce their overall demand for these commodities. So the demand for oil and gas would have fell. So therefore, in turn, prices would have fallen. So there has been a somewhat of a bottoming out of economic activity so far in the latter part of last year and early this year, which is what is accounting for the lower energy prices. In addition to that, we would have seen that the ban on all Russian oil products. In fact, recently the European Union instituted a complete ban on all refined Russian oil products, and they would have capped the Russian oil price. But despite of this, oil prices are still trending lower for now, but that is really because of the overall slowdown in global economic activities. However, the good news in my view, and I look forward to seeing this in more so in the latter part of the second quarter of this particular year, more so in the third quarter, when China, remember China, they've done away so far with their zero COVID policy. So whenever their lockdowns completely stop and the demand in the Chinese economy, the economic activity in the Chinese economy starts to move right back up, we were likely to see a resurgence in energy prices and oil prices. You don't be surprised if, analysts internationally are saying that oil prices could very well cross the $100 mark, and some are even saying get back up to about $120 per barrel. So there's that particular very, very important factor to consider. China is the world's largest importer of hydrocarbons, predominantly oil. So my feeling together with, the general consensus so far is that in the latter part of this year, more so in the second half, when you see a resurgence in Chinese economic activity, you're likely to see a resurgence in energy prices. So I think that is something that we have to look forward to, a resurgence in our revenue streams. However, that again shows us our extreme dependence on the hydrocarbon sector, on oil and gas, which is something that, again, we've been saying it for many, many years now. This extreme dependence on it, we need to break away from it, because when we look at our production levels aren't exactly the best where we would like it to be. Our gas production, for example, is about 26% lower than where we were at 2016 levels. Oil production is just at around 57 or 58,000 barrels per day. These are quite low compared to where we were several years ago. So what we have going for us in a positive scale, more so last year than now, is the very high prices of the high international prices for these commodities. Now they've started to drop, but again, as I would like to reiterate, in the latter part of this year, they're likely to resurge again with the increase in economic activity coming out of China, together with some reduction in the oil production. I think Russia said that they're intending to cut oil production by about 500,000 barrels per day by March. So that, and OPEC Plus is not likely, they're not given any indication that they're going to fill this gap. They would be all too happy for a cut in production because it means higher oil prices for them. So with a reduction in the global output of oil, again, we're likely to see higher oil prices coming out of the second half of this year.
That would certainly be beneficial to us. What about, you did touch on China, we're going to come back to them. What about, however, the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine with no real end or significant idea of an end in sight? We see where Russia has stated that if Ukraine is going to take part in the 2024 upcoming Olympics in Paris, set for Paris, they will not be participating. How will this continue to affect us, or how could it continue to affect us?
Well, once there's an ongoing war, remember that was really the real trigger for the surge in very high hydrocarbons. And so far, however, what we have to keep in mind is that whatever sanctions they placed against Russia in an attempt to dissuade them from the ongoing war, it has not really affected to the extent that the global leaders, I suspect, would have hoped. It has not really affected the extent to which these energy prices have fallen. Together with the fact that some countries have basically ignored the sanctions and continued, if not ramped up, the extent of their increases in energy in oil production in Russian oil. So, for example, India, China, Turkey, they've continued to increase their imports of oil products from Russia, and they would have gotten it at a very vast discounted price. The mere fact that they would have gotten it at an overall discounted price means that from the aggregate overall scale, in the international market, oil prices, that would have also helped to put some of the downward pressure on oil prices that we're seeing right now. However, the positive thing for us, that is, on other oil-producing countries, is that the oil prices so far have not dropped to what we would have seen in 2019, 2018, even, of course, hopefully never 2020 levels again. Remember, we would have seen prices of gas and oil as well reaching some extremely low figures at that particular point. However, one of the very detrimental factors coming out of this war is the surge in international food prices. Now, food prices globally, they have started to taper somewhat, but we've not really seen much of an effect of that in our local economy. In fact, when we look at the data, we'd have seen that in November, the most recent data provided by the CSO and the central bank, November last year, food prices, the food inflation level is still quite high. When we compare it to where we were in the immediate pre-pandemic period, food prices would have actually increased by about 13%. Now, this is food prices inflation overall. The overall, inflation in terms of food would have actually gone up by 27%, not 13%. 27% increase in food prices since November 2019. The reason I look at food is because out of all the commodities that we utilize on a daily basis, food, of course, I'm sure you'll agree with me, is the most important one. So I think out of all the inflation figures that we have, careful attention must be paid to that food inflation figure. Now, we have to ask ourselves, well, hang on, shipping rates have drastically fallen yet again, back to almost the pre-pandemic rates, and that was one of the reasons for these very high food prices as well. We're seeing internationally food prices starting to taper off, starting to drop. So what's happening here in Trinidad and Tobago? Why is it our food prices have not really started to fall? But I want to make something clear, because authorities and many others tend to paint a picture that when you have a lower value of inflation, it's a positive thing. Now, it is positive because it's a lower value of inflation, of course. But what is inflation? Inflation is simply the percentage change in prices from one period to another. So once you see that inflation rate is still positive, even if it dropped from 8% to 4% or whatever the case may be, it still means that prices are increasing. All it means is that prices are increasing at a slower rate. But nonetheless, once that inflation figure is positive, it means that prices are still increasing. And as I indicated before, food prices between 2019, November 2019 to November 2022 have increased by a whopping 27%. And again, when we ask ourselves, well, why are they really dropping? And when you go to the supermarkets, why are they still so high? Remember, our distributors are really the ones that are importing the bulk of these food items. Much of the food items we imported are imported by the distributors. So if the distributors are not dropping their prices, then the supermarkets in turn will not drop their prices, because of course, when the distributors have these high prices, the supermarkets are the ones paying the high prices to the distributors. Supermarkets are really import. And of course, then the supermarkets are going to pass these higher prices on to us, the consumer. So many have been wondering why prices of food items have not really been dropping. We have to take a careful look or revisit then what are really the prices that the distributors are in fact charging.
Yes, I think most importantly is for the man on the street is when can we expect the trickle-down effects of the shipping rates and the food prices internationally tapering out to reach our pockets. Thank you again, Dr. Valmiki Arjun. We've run out of time this morning, but thanks again for being with us here and for discussing the current economic landscape of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you for having me. Have a good morning.
We're going to take a quick break and come back with more AM Prime.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andrew.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinidadians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Welcome back. Now, here joining us in studio this morning, we have UK-born, Vinci-raised, married to a Trini, Alan Charles. He's a playwright and director of Focus Arts out of the UK, and he's here to discuss with us his upcoming play, sorry. Good morning, Alan. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Now tell us a little bit about, sorry, I just had to say it, you're UK-born, Vinci-raised, married to Trini. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your journey.
Right, so like I said, I'm actually a playwright and poet who was born in the UK at the age of 3. I was sent to St. Vincent, as you do, to get my grounding. Went back when I was 12, and then I've been living in England since. But then in 2005, I married a Trini, and that started the love affair with Trinidad and all things Trini.
Can you tell us about your time in theatre, your journey?
Right, so I started off as a spoken word artist, and when I was working on my 3rd album, I wanted to do a love and relationship album. But I thought that it would be better to do it as a theatre production, because I actually grew up in the church, and some of the issues in the church that we didn't want to talk about, I wanted to portray in the spoken word. And as a play, we then came up with the play Love, Sex and all that jazz, talking about stuff like singleness in the church, man shortage, why do men cheat, what do men want, what defines a man. Some of the stuff that sometimes as a people and as a group of people, we don't want to talk about it because we think that it's taboo. And so we use the theatre now and the plays to highlight some of the struggles and the challenges that we have as people of faith, to give us an opportunity to talk and discuss. And on the back of that, we would organize seminars where we can actually talk about some of those issues and how we can have better and stronger relationships.
So addressing social issues through theatre.
Theatre, right.
Yeah. So tell us, you've done love, sex, and all that jazz.
Love, sex, and all that jazz, because a play on words. Because
right.
Obviously in the church as well, we don't talk about sex because it's nasty, disgusting. So I played on the concept of love, sex, and all that jazz, but really and truly dealing with the sexual issues that's happening as well. And so it was refreshing to see the reaction from the audience. Of seeing real life issues on the stage that they can relate to, that sometimes we don't want to talk about, we don't want to address until negative things happen. That's when we don't have a conversation. But let's talk about it openly and encourage young people and everybody to know, to get the information from solid sources. Because if we don't teach, those who are negative will teach, and we can see that in society, especially young men, they are being attracted to the so-called street culture rather than the positive culture from a father, a family. So we're using the theatre to uplift, educate, and entertain.
So Focus Arts has been operating between Trinidad and Tobago and the UK for about 8 years, you said?
About 8 years, yeah.
Yeah. So we've had the Man's Dem as well.
Man's Dem.
And I'm Getting There, you
there,
said?
Yes.
And those were all with UK cast?
No, initially I came with the UK cast in 2015, and we did the Man's Dem and I'm Getting There. And then what I realized was that obviously Trinidad is a great, have a lot of great artists all around, storytellers, actors, singers, calypso, whatever. And so you always find that when you're doing the show, you say, oh yeah, I'm an actor, I'm a this and that. So I thought, why not use a Trini cast to tell the same story? And what I found as well is that obviously the Caribbean will give it a different flavor. And so the same play with a UK cast and a Trini cast, two different vibes. Because, you know, Trini, you're very lively and, you know. So it was interesting to see, because obviously with the English cast, it's more reserved, more mellow, but Trini bring the fire, bring the flame, bring the excitement. So since 2018, I've been using Trini cast to do the plays.
And how do you adapt your playwriting to match the Trini cast personality?
So the cast has the opportunity to make it Trini. You know, obviously I'm writing in a UK style, but obviously your words, your phrases, you adapt so that the Trini flavor can come out. Initially, I did have a problem because when I first came as well, a lot of the actors, when they were auditioning, would speak in an English accent. I'm like, no, we're in Trinidad. I don't want to come from England to Trinidad to get in a minute. So let's hear it. Because, you know, like, for example, if you're in the barbers and in the taxi, you hear people talking, real life drama you hear it. That's what I want when I produce a show in Trinidad. I want to hear the same way how you hear it on the street. It's just on the theatre so the audience can look and see themselves and hear the conversations that we're having on social media, in the barbershop, in the hair salon, real life issues.
Of course, so the messaging remains the same.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and it's brought across. Now, tell us about your upcoming film, production, Midlife Crisis.
Midlife Crisis, right. So I'm in my mid-50s. When I was in my late 40s, I realized that I was becoming very anxious, fearful, isolated, and I was wondering why. And I realized it because as I was approaching 50, I started thinking of my life, what I had done, what I've achieved. I'm thinking now of the end of my life. Have I done what I should have done? Have I accomplished what I should have accomplished? And so while in this state and doing some research, I came across this phrase, midlife crisis. And it was the first time I realized I was midlife, because I thought midlife was like 60, 65, you know what I mean? So then I started researching and stuff and began to write about some of my feelings. And I decided to turn it into a play dealing with some of those issues from how does that look in terms of a marriage and a family? If a husband and wife are going through midlife crisis, how does that impact them individually, as a couple, and as a family as well? And so that's how midlife crisis came about. Just dealing with, because obviously I'm in that age group now, and just sharing some of the challenges that you would go through if you were going through a midlife crisis. What causes a midlife crisis? You know, sometimes in our youth we make mistakes that can impact our life later. So it's just about sharing the journey of this husband and wife and how they're actually trying to solve or handle this stage in their life.
So can we say midlife crisis is a true story?
Well, you know, writers, whether you're a singer, calypsonian, you draw from life. You know, they tell you that write what you know. You know, so sometimes we take from our experiences, from your friends, families, society. So yeah, obviously there are bits. It's inspired by some stuff that I've gone through, what I've observed. But obviously you've got poetic license as well. So don't think, oh, that's Alan. It's been inspired through some stuff that I've been through. But obviously, as a writer, you're able to draw from your experiences.
Okay, so tell us, what can audiences expect when they come to see Midlife Crisis?
You're going to see yourself, you're going to see your family, your friends on stage. You know, because we did the show back in October. We did 3 nights at Central Bank, and the one thing we heard from the audience was like, oh my gosh, I saw myself. I saw me and my husband. People have testified that they're going through exactly what the cast was going through, the actors on stage were going through. So it was real life scenario. So you're going to come and you're going to be entertained, you're going to be inspired, and you're going to be encouraged to look at your life, look at your situation, and try to make positive changes. So it's not just entertainment. We want to uplift and we want to encourage and we want to challenge you to make positive life changes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the cast that we're going to see.
So we got two casts. So we have people like Michelle Sylvester, we got Jaron Nurse, we got Darren Clark, we got Sonja Thomas, Karen Richards, Joshua Modest. So it's some people that I've worked with in the past, and a few new guys that we've added to the contingent. So it's talented Trini cast. Some of them, their field is not actually acting. Some of them are singers that are bracing in the arts, because you know that arts, there is a synergy. And so we've got some popular people like that Jaron Nurse and Michelle Sylvester, who will be gracing the stage as actors and actresses. So I want to encourage you guys to really come out and support positive theatre.
Where, when and where would the production be?
So on the 4th of March, we're going to be in Tobago, Shore Park Complex, starting at 7 p.m. And then in Trinidad, the 11th and 12th, we're going to be at Central Bank, 7 p.m. on Saturday and 6 p.m. on Sunday. You can get your tickets in Tobago from Shore Park Complex or Pablo Supermarkets, and in Trinidad from A&A Pharmacy or Living Legacy in Arima. And tickets are only 175 TT.
Okay, so it's a totally local cast. You've said that yes. We can expect to see our own, we can expect to see ourselves. Tell us about the difference in theatre locally versus the UK. Now, would you say that theatre has a season, is seasonal in Trinidad and Tobago?
Trinidad, definitely, because every time I'm looking to do a show in Trinidad, I'm always encouraged or advised, don't come November to February, because that's Carnival, that's Christmas, that's out, and then so between March and October is when we generally do theatre. I'm encouraged to do theatre in Trinidad, so I assume that everything is based around Carnival and Christmas, and outside of that, then you can insert your theatre. But to be honest, I use theatre generally speaking. So I know that we're probably looking at theatre as just being on the stage and acting, but you know, I mean, extempo is theatre. Carnival is theatre. So it depends how you are phrasing theatre, because theatre is really just telling stories, you know, theatrical expression.
Can we expect to see you in upcoming Calypso, Kaiso competitions?
That's not my forte. I mean, I do spoken word, and I have done some stuff like chanting and stuff, but I'm more focused now on the theatre, and in few of the productions I do perform as well, you know, as you know, just a little piece, just to keep the spoken word sharp.
Tell us how different it is for being involved in theatre here locally versus the UK, your home base.
Okay, I think the difference is in the UK, we're very book-bound, we're very theoretical, we stick to it, whereas Trinidad and the Caribbean on a whole, we're more creative, you know, we're more freestyle, you know. We don't really work with the rigidness. I think there's a rigidness with the UK as opposed to the Caribbean is more free, you know what I mean, to express, and we see that in life in general. So I think the actual culture of the countries also infiltrates the arts.
And what have been the most challenging, or what have been the challenges stemming out of this for you?
Okay, so for me as well, I think that because of the cultural difference as well, because like I said, the Caribbean is very expressive, we're more loud, we're more powerful. Sometimes when it comes to the more quiet stuff, the more sensitive stuff, we still want to force in that extra excitement. You know, because I find the Caribbean as a whole, and we're so excited, we just want to bring the fire all the time, and sometimes you need a little bit of ice and a little bit of cooling. So I think sometimes that is where the challenges would arise. Just trying to manage the cultural influence of people's experiences.
you've mentioned the Caribbean several times now, so you've operated or you operate in other countries in the Caribbean. Tell us about the plans for Focus Arts for the rest of the year.
Right, so when we leave here, we're going to go to St. Vincent. We're going to be going to St. Kitts. We'll also be going to Toronto. In times gone by, we've done Barbados, Grenada, Antigua, St. Kitts. Yeah, so we try to cover all of the Caribbean and North America. I'm just trying to bring the arts to all.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Alan Charles, playwright and poet out of the UK and Trinidad and Tobago, of course. Thanks for joining us this morning. Be sure to come out and take a look at Midlife Crisis. That's a play coming up on March 4th in Tobago, Shore Park, and 11th and 12th right here in Trinidad and Tobago at Central Bank.
Yes.
Thanks again for joining us this morning. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
the conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN Content Capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best birthday gifts are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN Content Capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on AM Prime. Joining us this morning via Zoom is a representative, a pan soloist, a player with BP Renegades, a Panorama Champions 2023, Mr. Emmanuel Joseph. Good morning, Mr. Joseph. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning to you and to the entirety of your viewership. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us this morning. Congratulations. First off, congratulations to yourself and to the band on your Panorama win.
Thank you so much. I mean, this win is so important to us. It was a very hard-fought season. We know that the other bands came with their best, and so we just had to continue to prepare. And this is our 12th overall win in the National Large Band competition.
Now, you've been playing pan for about 9 years, you said. How long have you been playing? All 9 years with Renegades?
No, so I started at the age of 9. And then in 2015, I joined BP Renegades Youth Steel Orchestra, the younger group. And in 2020, I transitioned to the Senior Steel Orchestra. So with Renegades, it's just been about 8 years or so.
Now, how was it playing this season? Tell us a little bit about the arrangement. Renegades would have played Black Stallions, the late Black Stallions, Feeling to Party, Black Man Feeling to Party this year. Tell us a little bit about the arrangement and how it was for you participating in Panorama 2023.
Definitely. So Mr. Duvon Stewart, the arranger for BP Renegades, he tried to capture the essence of party, of community, and just overall good vibes from Dr. Leroy Callice's song, Black Man Feeling to Party. So the arrangement, it was not too difficult. It wasn't one of those, 1,000 notes, walls that are runs and stuff, but he really tried to capture the essence of a party and that good energy that Trinidad and Tobago has during Carnival. So the Panorama arrangement itself, the practice sessions weren't too arduous, but we enjoyed it as a band. There was this slogan that Mr. Stewart was using during the entirety of the season: there is a process to success. So there were times that we would come the night for practice and we drill the same part over and over, making sure that all the players were playing the correct notes, playing it the correct way, using proper technique. The captain, Miss Candice Andrews Brumont, was there every night, of course, with her vice captain and the rest of the board. The drill master, Mr. Andrew Charles, they were all in cohesion together, making sure that the band was sounding correct. And as a player, I enjoyed myself as a young and upcoming arranger, getting that chance to look and observe Mr. Duvon Stewart, who is a champion arranger, is a great opportunity for me as a personal player, and of course, as a member of BP Renegades. I'm just happy that we are now Panorama champions again. The last time we were Panorama champions was in 2019.
Tell us a little bit about, you said you came from the youth orchestra of BP Renegades, and particularly this carnival of note is the number of young persons, not just your age, but even younger. We saw some quite children, minors, in many of the bands, large and medium bands, throughout the Panorama competition. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of Pan, the new generation, coming out of the youth orchestra yourself.
Sure. Okay, so BP Renegades Youth Steel Orchestra has been in existence from since 2000, the year 2000, and since then it's worked as a feeding tool for the senior steel orchestra. So when persons come in the youth steel orchestra and they learn the rudimentary basic skills of playing the steel pan, they are able to transition to the steel pan. And this process has not only been going on in BP Renegades, but in many of the larger organizations as well, where the youth bands feed the senior steel orchestras, and even outside of the big bands, from the small, medium, and all the single pan bands as well, there is a lot of young people. The youth in the steel band fraternity are very successful, and not even as players alone, but a lot of young arrangers are in the foray now in the steel band fraternity, from both the junior panorama, which is primary, secondary, and under 21 bands, all the way up to the into small, medium, and large bands. There are a lot of young arrangers under the age of 30 doing wonderful things. To name just a few, in the large band category, the band that placed third Silver Stars, 2 young arrangers from Tobago, Mr. O.J. Richards and Mr. Kirsch Ramsey, is just one small example of how well the youth are doing in steel band right now.
And in your experience, how do the young ones get involved? I mean, yes, there are these youth programs within the big bands, as you say. However, is it just that, you know, a young person walks off the streets and they come into the panyards? Because you tend to hear a lot about, you know, my mother or my father played and I got involved. How does it happen otherwise? I think it's so important for young people. We saw it this year. It was so refreshing. It was really lovely. How do they get involved? Or how can they get involved?
How can they? Sure. I think community is important. When a steel band is established in a community, the young people in the community are naturally drawn towards the sound. I think schools are very important. You know that there's the Pan in Schools program there, the music diversity instruments, the diverse range of instruments within the music schools. I think peer pressure in a good way is important as well, because when young partners go back to school and tell their friends, boy, I was on the panorama stage, there was lights, cameras, somebody come and take out a picture, man, are able to learn a new skill, and that just word of mouth spreading, I think that's very important. So positive peer pressure is important for the steel pan youths, but I think community is one of the most important. When there's a steel pan organization established inside a community where there's a sense of pride, a sense of community, that's very important as well. So that's one good way that youths are becoming intertwined with the steel pan fraternity.
Well, the schools panorama champions competition, saw a much bigger turnout this year compared to other years. So, you know, we hope to see more of that going forward. Now, Emmanuel, you also had a series this carnival on your social media platforms called EJ in the Rama. Tell us a little more about that.
An educational platform for the steel pan fraternity by the steel pan fraternity. Not to, you know, do a disservice to the other media houses, but I think coming from a steel panist, the way we elaborate and we define our terms and our norms within the steel pan fraternity was very important. So I took it upon myself with my tripod and my camera, and I became a little innovative. I taped a mic onto a bass stick, and I was just going around interviewing people, doing some exposés on the steel pan fraternity, on panorama, on the process from tuning the pans to learning the song to what an arranger would do. I tried to cover my best. I try my best to cover all the panorama events, but unfortunately, of course, the panorama season has gotten to me itself. So for junior panorama, I was unable to cover because I was arranging for a secondary school, and that took up my entire day. And of course, I had to play with BP Renegades Youth Steel Orchestra. For panorama semis, the big Savannah party, I had a gig. I had to come straight to the Savannah for BP Renegades performance. And of course, the medium finals was in Tobago, and I was unfortunately unable to get there. And of course, the panorama night finals for the large band category, it was so busy that I wasn't able to cover anything for EJ Nirama. But it still serves to be an important and informational series that allows the outsider, the onlooker, to get a little taste of what we go through as Spanish. The stories being told by panelists. So it's going to have a panorama wrap-up as we're doing here at EJ Nirama, and I'm hoping that next year, please God, I can do it on a much more professional scale. But it was just a nice sentiment for me to bring the information that we as panelists know to the onlooker, to the person that witnesses the entire panorama event, EJ Nirama.
Now, I saw some of your videos, some of your posts on social media interviewing panists, arrangers, and tuners. How did the idea for this particular series come about? Where did you get the idea from?
I was actually in a seminar. It was a social media marketing seminar, and it was called the Brand You, hosted by the Tova Group. And I was just sitting down in the seminar. One of the presenters was speaking, and they said, I think the catchphrase they said was, make your own way. I was like, wow. And the idea immediately clicked in my head. Let me do something that is going to present the steel pan the way it's supposed to be presented, or maybe how I see it could be presented. And that's where I got the idea. I sat down right there in the seminar on my phone, typing up a draft note, saying, all right, what's a good name? What is it going to be about? What is the vision statement? And I tried to get a draft of it right there and then in the seminar. And from there, I fleshed it out a little more. And then when it was time, I just went. I just did it. I beat by 1 week.
Now, we've spoken about youth in PAN.
Yes.
How do you feel yourself as a young person who has grown in PAN itself? How do you feel about the presence of PAN in schools on the curriculum? Now, some of us growing up, we would have learned the recorder, the piano, some other musical instruments, but not necessarily PAN, which is our musical instrument, our national musical instrument. How do you feel about PAN not specifically being part of the educational curriculum?
Okay, I think sometimes we underestimate the presence of PAN, because I think a lot of schools have the steel pan right now. Maybe it's not their most focused instrument, but I think a lot of schools have PAN. But however, saying that, I think there should be a point at a student's career, whether it be at the primary or secondary level, that the PAN is mandatory. Now, it doesn't have to be you playing the steel pan, but you can learn about steel pan history, learn about the process of steel pan creation. I think at one point, at least one point in a student's career, at least the primary or secondary school level, it should be mandatory. But saying that, I think the Ministry of Education and PAN has done a lot since maybe 10 years ago. That right now there's a strong presence of PAN in schools, both primary and secondary. So I think right now we're on track to get into a place where almost every school has the steel pan as part of their curriculum. So it's not the best yet, but I think we're on a very good track right now.
And do you think this is one of the reasons why we would have seen so many young people taking part in Panorama Finals competition this year?
Definitely. I think coupled with the influence of the Ministry of Education and PAN, I think coupled with the absence of PAN for so long, well, for 2 years, a lot of these youths were hungry. I remember speaking to some of them from BP Renegade to say, Manny, I ain't touched a PAN since 2020, I excited to come out. I ready to be here, and you could have seen the joy in their faces. So Junior Panorama that took place in Savannah at the end of January, there was a huge crowd of both panists and supporters. So it was evident that these youths are very, very excited about the steel pan, definitely.
Going back to the Panorama competition 2023, it's been 2 years, as you said. Panists didn't get to touch a pan. They didn't get the excitement of being there on stage playing for the audience. How was it for you, and what did you think of the competition, how it was run this year?
Okay, for me personally, there was a lot of times where I just took a moment, close my eyes and breathe it all in, just to take in the moment of being back on the Savannah stage. There's a custom that I do every time I step on the Panorama stage, I touch the ground and then I touch my heart. I did that too many times this year because it was so great to be back on stage. In terms of how the competitions were run, doing EJ in the RAM, I was able to be at strategic points to see the officials and everything. I think this year we improved immensely. I think from the single pan come all the way up to the large band finals, everything was very cohesive, smooth. There were hardly any times where there was any disruptions. I think the officials at these events worked very hard, because before, as a player, I would have just been on with a band that I'm moving with. But while doing EJ and RAM, I was able to take a step back and see all the outer workings of the entire organization. So I got to see firsthand how hard they work, and I think they did a very good job this year. I think the organization, the shows that were put on were very cohesive and smooth, and it's just looking forward to next year to be even bigger and better.
And how do you feel about the NCC's announcement that the stipends for panelists partaking in the Panorama Finals are back on track this year?
I think to some panelists it would be very meaningful, but I think that a lot of us, we do this out of love for the instrument, out of love for the culture. I think as a steel panelist coming from any background, you have to put in the work, and the incentive for that work cannot only be monetary compensation. I think you have to love the instrument, you have to love the country, you have to love the culture, you have to love the sound of the steel pan as well. So although the monetary compensation in this way is important, I think we as panelists are so in love with the instrument that you could almost say that no amount of money could keep us away. But yes, it's very important that we are financially compensated. Definitely, yes, I agree.
Before we wrap, EJ, just give us a little idea of what we can expect coming up from EJ in the Rama, or just Emmanuel Joseph himself.
Okay, sure. So Emmanuel Joseph, myself, I am a steel pan soloist. I perform at different hired events. I perform at different gigs. I am also a music TT spotlight artist. The music company of Trinidad and Tobago, they had a development program for artists. I am one of them. And I do content creation. I'm going to get into doing some more interviews. I want to get into the hand of broadcasting as well. But still, EJ and entertainment, I'm a steel pan performer, musicologist, hoping to become an established arranger in the steel pan fraternity as well. But right now, I'm also a university student, so I'm going back into the university life. And it's just going to be taking everything step by step in my career as an entertainment industry member. Just going to take it step by step, piece by piece.
Well, the best to you, EJ, Emmanuel Joseph. Congratulations once again to yourself and to the BP Renegades on their Panorama 2023 win.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and all the best to you as well.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to take a quick break and come back.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order, or visit us in-store at Forces flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the Content Capital.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokaram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this: screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Thanks for staying with us here on AM Prime. Let's take a look at the Newsday newspaper headlines for this morning. Mass, and more mass. A masquerader, Afia Francis from Lost Tribes 2020 We enjoys herself crossing the stage in her beautiful costume. More masqueraders from tribes in New Dawn at the Socadrome, a Hearts masquerader at Adam Smith Square, and a member of Cyber Nation at Kinetic Mass at South Key. And also soca artist Nyla Blackman performed her hit Come Home on the Lost Tribe truck as they crossed the Savannah stage. And of course, iconic masked man laughs off death rumors. Minchell alive. There was unfortunately rumors that Peter Minchell, masked man Peter Minchell, passed away yesterday, and this story was debunked when it was confirmed that masked icon Peter Minchell was still alive after the unfortunate announcement of his death yesterday. And in the Tobago Newsday, a visitor from Sweden dances with a traditional character as part of the Fog Angels Juve Band in Crown Point. And the festival CEO of Tobago Festivals laments a low Juve turnout. Carnival must be re-evaluated. And in sport in the Tobago Newsday, Canadian goalkeeper Keelan Sheridan grabs the ball as she stops a shot by Brazil during the first half of She Believes Cup women's match on Thursday in Nashville. That's a look at the Newsday newspaper headlines for both Trinidad and Tobago. We're going to take a look at our Watch This video this morning. It's a throwback to this year's recently concluded Kiddies Carnival. Here's a clip taken from Instagram from QB868 of National Treasures Kiddies Masqueraders on the Road. And that was a short clip of the kiddies at Rosalind Gabriel's presentation this year, the penny section at Rosalind Gabriel's presentation this year for Kiddies Carnival. The kids really enjoy themselves for Carnival. It is amazing to watch. It is so lovely to see them jump up, enjoy themselves. They really bring the authenticity and the genuine excitement to Carnival. It really is a joy watching them. That's how we wrap the show this morning. Congratulations once again to all the Carnival 2023 competition winners. We wait with bated breath to hear the results of the Road March, Band of the Year competitions, both here in Trinidad and Tobago. So stay tuned for more updates on that. Thanks for staying with us here on AM Prime on WESN. Be sure to look out for Keaton and Sean, who are up at the top of the hour with Talking Points. To get in touch with us, you can check us out on all our socials at WESNCC. And to contact us here for interviews, you can email us at amprimewesn@gmail.com. Thanks for staying with us this morning. I am Leah Ann Jones. See you again tomorrow.
WESN.
I am Sule A. Joseph, and we are WESN, Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
the conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN Content Capital.
I'm Andre L. Batiste, and you're watching WESN, the Content Capital.
The continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the